Kocharya, you know Cindy. Cindy is our program and training director. She's a master coach. She's my mentor. And we are currently working with probably about over 24 people towards the mastery credentials for ICF. Cindy is also the president of the ICF South African chapter, and she has been in this field for quite a long time. She has been in the corporate sector. She has been in many of the not-for-profit foundational activities in terms of diversity and inclusion. Her career spans a number of years, a number of spaces. And the philosophy that we both work on pretty much works in terms of what we are going to discuss as our signature style later today that Cindy is going to talk about. Her topic for today is signature style in coaching. Cindy, over to you.
Hi, everyone. I know most of you here. I can look at the names and tell. To those that I don't as yet, I look forward to getting to know you too. So we're going to spend the next hour or so together talking about coach signature styles or coach presence, similar to signature styles, right? What makes you unique as a coach? What makes you stand out? Or another way of asking it, what do people say about you that makes them drawn to you, really attracted to you? Or make them go, wow, so-and-so is amazing. I just love talking to them, being with them, and love them as my coach. And they talk about the value you add and the ideas that you share. So coaching styles and coaching presence draws on from many, many elements. And in today's session, we're going to look at some of it. We're going to look at some ways to discover your coaching presence. Most of us know what it is. Some of us are just shy to share it, or too humble to say this is what makes me unique, or this is my talent, ability, and gifts that I bring to this world. So we're either shy about it or too humble to mention it. Some of us are bold enough to outwardly say it. And well done to those. But so today we look at coaching presence and coaching style, what makes us unique. I'm going to ask one or two of you to also share. I'll do a short interview with Ram. And of course, we'll discuss some coaching questions on unique styles and unique coaching presence. I have a short presentation, which is basically talking about coach styles. And I'm not sure at this point whether I'll go into presentation mode and just share simply short questions and discussion points. If we don't cover it, I'm quite happy to leave a Word document on it with Magda, and she will quickly share, or she will easily share that with you. So I thought we'll open this session with a short interview between Ram and I. And I'll pick his brain a bit about his own coaching style. And I just got to say this, you know, Ram talks about these webinars of world-renowned speakers, the series of webinars. And I always wonder why he doesn't want to include himself in it. So I guess this is my chance to ask him some questions. So Ram, what's unique about you? What's unique about your style or your presence?
Okay. Cindy, the only way that I can, in a very simple one-word sentence, one-word expression, if I want to describe that, is probably unpredictable. So, but actually, I mean, to be more serious in terms of going back, you talked about presence, creating awareness, and all those kind of stuff. They are fine as competencies, but in my own personal viewpoint, and this is very personal, for me, it doesn't signify the coaching style that I have adopted over a period of time, or somewhere earlier you had asked me, what is it that someone whom I had worked with even several years ago would remember me for, and that would be somewhat different from any of the so-called competencies, be it ICF, be it EMCC, whatever. I think much of it comes from my own experiential learning, and therefore something that I have found with some difficulty over a period of time, and I find often repeated as a pattern with many other people. So let me try and summarize a bit. It's not that simple to put in words, but one of the things that I find is again and again, and mostly my clients are from the corporate space. Occasionally they are people who may be in not-for-profits and other stuff as well. But primarily what comes to my attention is that whether they are in their 30s, 40s or 50s, they all, or the majority of them, if they come to me as a coach to help them, they have a dissatisfaction. They are clear about what is it that is not satisfying them. What is it that they are not happy about? But when they try to express themselves and trying to figure out what is it that fulfills them, they have tremendous difficulty. And first I thought that is only with certain transitional age groups, but I find it more and more at various age groups and genders and geographies as well. My simple word for that is the confused generation, not necessarily in terms of an age or geography or anything, whatever, but there seems to be a general kind of tendency, as it were, where there's a lot of choice out there. And then people see other people being successful, perhaps being better than them. And then they wonder, why can't I be better than the other person? And that leads to a certain amount of dissatisfaction, but at the same time, there is no clarity of what is it that would give them dissatisfaction. So in very simple words, you can say, hey, they lack a purpose, they lack a meaning. And that's far too simple. So then the question is, what begs the question is, how do you define that purpose? How do you define that meaning? And there are so-called processes which define that. So this was what bothered me a lot, because it bothered me in my work life. I was part of that confused generation for quite a period. And it took me certain fairly difficult practices to be able to get out of it. Many of them Eastern meditational practices, which helped me, and later an understanding of Western psychological and neurobiological wisdom, as it were. And so, in a sense, putting all that together, today I work with people in trying to help them understand more about what is it that would really help them to be more clear about what they want. Whatever that word is, whether you want to use it as a passion, whether you want to use it as meaning, purpose, whatever that might be. But ultimately, something that is put together is going to help them to be more satisfied with what they are doing. So in a sense, I guess that is what I would call my signature style in coaching. And that is across a journey, and it's not necessarily in one session. How does it reflect in terms of a specific set of competencies or skill? I hope I'm making sense on this.
So it sounds like it's been a process or an evolution of your learning style, of the value you had, and of course, discovering in that value that you're having what is standing out for you as a contributor.
I would like to stay away from that contributor bit, because if there's one thing that we have all learned as coaches is it is not our contribution in terms of what we have learned that is going to add value. It is about what the client discovers about himself or herself. So I would say, yes, the process at one level was based on a certain experiential wisdom that I gathered. But over a period of time, it has been applied I would say, to probably a few thousand people, as it were, and therefore refined to some degree as an independent process that can be applied to anybody, which I call that creating your own future for each individual to create his or her own future. I'm not really a contributor. I'm purely a facilitator. I stay there with them, explain the process, and they work on that. And then they have questions, they come back and we discuss about it and they move forward. And finally, generate a solution, a vision for themselves, and also the journey that would lead them to that projected vision.
So Ram, the one thing that I notice, well, many things that I notice are unique about you, and I have no idea why you're not saying it now, but I'll add to something here. So what I notice, the one thing that stands out for me is your coach training, or the way you have gone about with adding value on the way you put together coach training. But my words are not very eloquent today. And it has a Eastern approach, a Western approach, and draws from, there's many modalities and many thoughts of thinking. But mainly what stands out is the combination of both an Eastern and Western approach. How do you, what stands out for you in the way you have developed that?
Yeah, okay. That's a fair point, Cindy. You're absolutely right. So first of all, I'm a completely accidental coach. I was a pure and simple corporate animal. 40 years I had spent in the corporate space, and I was going through my own personal traumas in terms of discovering myself. So I went through a spiritual path, and eventually, purely accidentally, somebody suggested coaching. I didn't even know what it was, and I became a coach. And all that was talked about at that time was the competencies, the 11 competencies of ICF at that point in time. That's all I knew. But even within that, there was something that resonated for me. For the first time in my life, I started learning to listen, because that was for me a difficult thing, because I was brought up on an environment which was all about telling and not asking. And there was strangely, ironically, probably, there was that resonance that this was some way adding value. And so I completed the training. And when I started looking at, I was interested in, let's say, teaching. I was interested in training other people. And when I started working on this framework, I found it extremely limiting. So by that time, I had also started looking at various other psychological options, though I had a background in terms of Eastern philosophy, both Hindu and Buddhism. That wasn't immediately what came to my mind. I was more trying to integrate, for example, Jungian psychology, some of the neurobiology that I was looking at, organizational development interventions, and so on and so forth. Many of which had the fundamental framework of reframing, which is, to my mind, the essence of all coaching. Ultimately, what we do as coaches is to try and help the client reframe a particular situation in order to reach the destination that they are looking for. And that was around the time when I came across Carl Rogers. It's purely by chance. And I started reading his book on becoming a person, which became for me pretty much of a Bible as far as coaching was concerned. And his whole concept of unconditional positive regard for people, the client congruence and empathy put together in a humanistic pattern and combined with things like Maslow and so on, Graves, that resonated for me. And so eventually what happened was it was an amalgamation of all this, a blending of different spaces. And none of them seemed at a point in time really connected. But as I worked on them, there was a connection, and that is how I built the curriculum that exists in Cocharia today. At least as an introduction to people that these are possibilities that exist, and you can start looking at them. It is not a mastery course in each of these particular specialities, but all of them in some way or another contribute to that process by means of which a coach would be able to help a client move forward, and at the same time for the client to develop his or own awareness and develop a solution. So yeah, in that sense, there is a lot of blending. I'm honestly not sure at this point in time. A lot of it happened as an outpouring of ideas and thoughts that they came together towards a common purpose of that unconditional positive regard for the client or the learner to become that kind of a coach to a client, to be able to exhibit what I consider the two most important parameters of coaching, which are about listening and presence. And to me, these are the two extremely important factors. And what they do require as an underpinning is an awareness from the coach. Unfortunately, in our competencies, that awareness of the coach is not paid that much of importance to. What is talked about is the creation of the awareness in a coaching session with a client. But there are, for example, in EMCC competencies, the first competency is about understanding self. So there's a lot more emphasis in terms of how does a coach go into self-reflection to be able to be more aware, as a result of which the rest of it sort of falls into place. So these are things which happen over a period of time. Even today, if I were to look each one of them in separate elemental space, it'll be like a centipede trying to count its legs while walking, and it'll get all messed up. So I don't look at it from that perspective. I look at it in a much more holistic perspective. How these different thought processes, be it philosophy, be it psychology, be it neurobiology, even quantum physics, for example, they all come together. And they all come together in a space where there's some kind of a point of singularity which applies in coaching presence as well. The coach is non-judgmental, the coach is almost invisible, but at the same time, in that invisibility, the coach enables the client, empowers the client in many ways. So yeah, I guess for what it is worth, that is my overall philosophy, applied philosophy, as it were.
There's lots of uniqueness there, Ram, or there's a lot of coaching style in what you said. I'm sure everybody can pick that up from you, even though you're not saying it, which is quite normal. Lots of people don't openly say what their coaching style is, and yet we pick it up, right? We listen to somebody and we pick up all the uniqueness or what makes them different or stand out. So coaches, Manta, can our coaches contribute? Can they talk? Would they be audible?
Only panelists are allowed to speak. So if anybody has any questions or comments, they can use the chat to make their comments.
Okay. So coaches, I'm going to ask you a question. Please put your answers into the chat box before I share screen with you. What is your unique coaching style? Write your messages, write down in the chat box, 1 word, 5 words, any amount you want. What is your unique style? What makes you unique, stand out? Or another way I'll ask it, what do other people say about you that makes you amazing or the sought after one?
Cindy, perhaps you could read a few of those out loud because they're going by very quickly and there's some good answers in there.
Yes, some wonderful answers in here. I take a deep dive with clients. Oh, and it's going very quickly. My clients always say that they feel listened to. I give up 100%. I think my clients feel that I'm genuine. They're attracted to my warmth and being with them. That's from Rekha. At least I can read a name now. I inspire them, empathy, safety, devoted. My clients feel more clear. They get clarity. Pradeep says it's empathy and being authentic. I think my coachee feels I have an high amount of empathy and compassion. I'm one with the coachee and the learner. Good. A deep understanding of what they are feeling. Wonderful. I work from my heart. Of course, I think that's Fiona. That is Fiona. As well as my mind with attention on our relationship. I use a sense of humor. Ruta. Sandeep said it's his commitment. And Victoria, active listening and my ability to reframe. My style is one which is characterized by empathy, curiosity, questioning, authentic speaking, genuine care about my counterpart. So we got a good idea of the coaches on this call. What is their learning style? I'm going to ask Magda that question in a few minutes, but before that, I'd like to share screen with you. Ooh. Now how do I go back to my, there we go. Coach or coaching signature styles and signature presence. So if you could see the same, right, Rumi? Can you see it? Can you see my screen, Magda?
Yes, it's on the screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone has been made for some particular work, and the desire for that work has been put in every heart. Let yourself be silently drawn by the stronger pull of what you really love. So from that, it says a lot about our signature style. And I have this question for you on signature style, which is perhaps a demonstration of authentic value and distinction. Well, firstly, a demonstration of authentic value and distinction, and second, connect to others in a positive way. And leaders who are able to be authentic while connecting with and impacting others have what we call a signature voice. Just like how many of you had responded with the same elements. And it means a means of self-expression that is uniquely and distinctly your own. So what contributes to our learning style, to our signature style? We heard Ram talk about things that he was learning, right? So we know that our learning style contributes to our signature style, the way we learn, our approach to learning. And I know most coaches call themselves a lifelong learner, which is true. As we learn sometimes to our clients' journey, we learn from personal journeys, we learn from a global framework. We're always learning, or from a technological one, but we're always in this learning space. Well, of course, for coaches, a big resource of learning is books and webinars, podcasts, related stuffs. We also learn by communication styles, whether it's our own or whether it's somebody that has communicated with us and there were some things about it that didn't sit well with us. And that gives us a good insight of what we don't like. So learning style, communication styles, What contributes to our signature style is also an inner passion and a love for something. And we develop that into a career, like many of us who became coaches. Sometimes it's an event, it's a good or bad one, but it's an event that leads to us asking this question around what shows up as our strength. Even those moments where it was showing up as our weakness, as time goes on, we develop something out of it. Perhaps a uniqueness, perhaps something that's a learning point or a reflection point that we share with others as our story, what becomes our story. And sometimes our signature styles come out of a calling. And in this calling, we discover more about strengths, abilities, talents, and passion. Many of you here know about Hero's journey, right? It comes out of a deep calling. And as we pay attention and think about it and reflect on the journey of the calling, out emerges this clarity of what stands out for you that makes you unique. And it becomes the signature style or your signature presence. Same as style, a presence, a person has a presence. And we heard Ram tell a story around that, which sounded like a calling, putting it all together until how it emerged something more, even if this something was a coaching curriculum. And of course, I left out many bullet points there for you to fill in your own, because you will know what contributes to your signature style or your signature presence. So without me moving away from the screen, I'd like to check in with Magda. Magda, I'm sorry that I'm saying your name more Afrikaans. I come from South Africa, sorry. Magda, you're Kocharia CEO. So I'd like to check in with you. Of course, Kocharia hired you for lots of talents and abilities that you have. What stands out for you, or what do other people say are your best uniqueness?
In terms of what's applicable, I think, to Kocharia and to work, it's, I think, my direct nature. I don't beat around the bush. For better or for worse, frankly. I know it turns off people, but I get things done, and I tend to say things as they are. So there's never ambiguity as to what's next or where we stand.
Anything else?
I suppose in personal life, if you ask me what's unique about me, I think it's my passion for animals and passion for women. People sometimes say I've got a chip on my shoulder about those two things, but it mostly comes through because I believe in, an anti-cruel world. So that's important to me to fight for, and it's important to me to have a fair world where women are treated as people in every situation. So that's something I think that probably comes through in all areas, including in work, because it's kind of, it's the background thing that's a common thread in my life and everything I do, standing up for animals and standing up for women.
Thank you, Magda.
No worries.
Coaches, have you noticed what else contributes to your signature style? Your values and beliefs. If you could pick that up from what Magda was saying. And of course, passion, right? When we spoke about passion, but it sounds like your values and beliefs. So you can add that to what contributes to your signature style or to a signature style. So let's go on, and I'm going to check in with Summer a bit later. So So here's some ways to discover. I should have asked you. Late. Ways to help you discover your signature style or your signature presence. Well, you can ask friends, current friends, former colleagues, community leaders, what they see as your greatest strengths. Here's a lovely question, which you can reflect on. You don't need to do it right now. What is it in you that others are drawn to you? What is it about you? What actions and ideas do others often compliment you on? What is astounding and amazing in you? And many coaches know the answer to this one. Sometimes they don't pay attention to it, but inside them they know the answer. Why do people choose to talk to you? And how much time and attention do you allow to honor and cultivate your powers, purpose, and true potential? Powers refers to mainly your inner strength or your inner powers. Those times where you suddenly discover, oops, I did that, and I was quite fearless in the way I did it. But it's more something inside me that drives the outside. Like taking a risk and approaching a client that you would have never thought possible and closing the deal. I'll leave this for a bit later. I'm finding this very, very difficult not to engage with you in a verbal way. So, is there any questions emerging from you? Put it onto the chat and we will have a look. Of course, our experiences also contribute to our learning style, our coaching style. And our experiences, as I was saying, may come from a calling or an event that happened, or just your everyday experiences. The one day when you're driving, you suddenly discover, that's what makes me unique. Or I suddenly discovered a strength about myself that sounds like more my style, or that's uniquely me. Many of my strengths on what I do well, I discovered through the eyes of other people or through quiet reflection moments where I thought, I really can persevere, which seems to be one of my strengths, perseverance. And I can really do that well. Coaches, what are you noticing about something in you that you have not noticed before? Or paying attention to something in you that could be your unique style and you may have not noticed it before. If you have ideas about that, please type it into the chat box. And while you're doing that, I'd like to check in with Summer on her coaching style.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi, Ray. You can't see Summer because she's being driven at the moment. She's not doing the driving, so she can still chat.
Yes, absolutely.
So Summer, I know what an amazing career path you had. And some of the people that I say amazing because it's, yeah, I'll leave it as amazing. And some of the people that you work with are constantly in gratitude of the help they receive. Not because you said so, but because the story you share give out that meaning, or the stories you share. So what for you makes you unique? What have you noticed about your? Yeah.
Well, thank you for that first and foremost. But I would say over the years, professionally, it has evolved. Dealing with, over the years, I've worked with a lot of people that have experienced extreme trauma, such as suicide and homicidal thoughts. So it has really evolved me professionally. And I would say in coaching, what makes me unique is what I originally was running away from. And I must say, you really helped me with this aspect. But really, looking at the concept of learning from my clients and being inquisitive is really one of my greatest strengths. And I really let them allow them to tell their story. And what's most important to me and how I really feel that I see myself is that the only thing that matters is that given point in time, nothing else. And using I would say one thing, looking at all the theories that from psychology, there's one concept that every theory has one component that every theory has, which is human connectivity. And looking at how human response and human interactivity is a desire for everyone internally. That's one theory, that's one connection in every theory, even though all theories have different concepts. This one component is that humans have a desire for connectivity, whether it's connectivity to a purpose or connectivity to another person, that we're all seeking some form of connectivity or desire. And one thing that what I bring is really helping my clients identify their emotional radar, finding the words to what they're feeling through exploration. For example, meaning the word anger and angry are two different things. So really beginning to explore those emotional radars is what begins to bring an awakening and awareness so that client themselves can find their own sense of awareness and connectivity through their emotions of awareness. So that's what I do.
Yeah, Ruta on the chat said emotional radar, an interesting way to think about it. And absolutely right. I love it. I love the way you described your connection and contributions and the way you help your clients. And, I do know a bit about you, and I know that you've been on a bit of a personal journey recently or taken some more different directions. What are you discovering about yourself in that space?
I would say that the great thing I have really discovered is that I'm much more of a risk taker than I thought I was. I thought I played it safe, but I'm finding out that I'm much more of a risk taker. And also, I thought I was so outgoing and outspoken, but I'm really coming to find that I have a lot more introverted ways than I once thought of myself. A lot of the reflection that especially in our classes that you're having me doing, I'm really beginning to see the quietness that I have inside of myself. And I believe that that's something that I'm actually accepting more of and connecting more of, is really spending more time with my inner self.
Well, thank you, Summer. Do you want to raise, as a panelist, do you want to raise a question on signature styles? Is there a question burning inside for you?
The question that I would raise is, if as a coach, if this is the only—
Summer, you're losing some of your volume.
Uh-oh. Is that better now?
Yeah.
Okay. Is this better?
No. Try again.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah, as you said, better. It was better.
Okay, I apologize, Mary. I'm driving, so please accept my apologies, everybody. I would say the biggest question or the burning question that I would have as a coach to another coach is, if at this very moment, this is the only moment you have with your client, what is it that you could offer of yourself? How do you make this moment just be as present for that client? Because I always say to myself, what is it that I can offer of myself to just be right now with that client? How do
We didn't get.
I let go of everything inside of my head to just be present? And how do I offer of myself?
Absolutely. So coaches, thank you, Summer. I have a question for you. In keeping ourselves or in holding, being our authentic selves, and for whatever that means for you, right? As you described earlier on in what is your coaching presence or your signature style. In keeping your authentic self or being true to yourself, how do you do that and still remain with your client? How do you keep your own authentic self in your coaching style or your signature style and still remain true to clients, especially in difficult situations, like a difficult, we won't say difficult client, clients not, but we'll say in a difficult situation. You can put your answer on the chat. That's the only way we can communicate. And I'm missing some beauty of your answers, which we're going to capture after our session, I think. Please also let Magda know if you want to speak. I was going to speak to Vijay and Rama, and I can't. If we can open their, we can in any way allow them into this part, the panelist part. Magda, that would be great.
Yeah. So anybody who would like to speak, just click on raise my hand inside the Zoom interface, and I will then promote you to a panelist and you can chat. So right now, I have, well, it's someone's phone, so I'm not going to promote this one, but I only have Krishna who's raising their hand. Let me know if you want to say something, Krishna, or anybody else. How about this? I'm going to lower everyone's hands so we can start over. And anybody who wants to answer Cindy's question, please let us know now.
So let's go to the last part of that slide share. And
oh, I actually have a taker. I just promoted. Victoria would like to say something?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Victoria, you're unmuted. You can go ahead and speak.
Okay, so can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay, good. Answering the question asked before, I think curiosity is the way to maintain your own personality, your own signature, and exploring what the client is bringing and helping the client to see through his thoughts and making sense of what he's trying to achieve. So it's really trying to remove judgment or staying in the moment, if you want to say, and being present.
Well, thank you, Victoria. Staying in the moment and being present. Anybody else? Now I can't even read the chat. Ram, you can read the chat. How do you still remain authentic as a coach by still meeting the needs of your client or of clients? You can still see my screen, right? Yeah?
No, you stopped sharing the screen. We can see you, Cindy, right now.
Okay.
Yep, now you're back.
Yeah, there's a question. You say Krishna also was going to share.
No, I think that was a mistake.
Okay. Anybody else is coming up? Or raise their hand? Thank you, Victoria.
Yep, and Michael
Coach,
Cullen, I believe, wanted to say something.
Yeah.
There he is.
To talk?
Hi, Michael, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. One of the things that came up for me was this idea of being professional while being myself. So how do you, this idea of blending professionalism with deep authenticity. So to that, this idea of being fully present, spiritually connected, and being of service to someone else in a professional way, because ultimately we have to maintain that sense of tension between empathy and professionalism in terms of guiding the process and being of service to the client ultimately for their needs.
So Malcolm, what are your thoughts, right? That's showing up right now on that question.
To be aware of my own bias, to be aware of perhaps my own intention, and to not let that override what is required in the situation. So how do I adapt myself to the client's way of being, as opposed and being fully conscious of my own way of being in a way that serves the client. So if I feel my own biases creeping in, to signal that, and to ask for permission to talk about that in a way that helps inform the coaching process, not as a way of just expressing my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. That's beautifully said. Coaches, is there anybody else that has more to contribute to what Malcolm just said? How do you maintain the space of
Yeah, there's a couple
and
others, Cindy, that I'm just adding right now. So they'll jump in when they get on.
They can jump on now.
Hi, this is Anu.
Hi, Anu.
Hi, Cindy. So yeah, I guess taking on from what Michael just said, I think as a coach and as a responsible professional, one has to be very clear that you need to be there for the client and remove consciously the judgments that you and the biases that you have within yourself. Because if you're going to listen to your own voices, you will not be truly listening to what the client is saying.
Yeah, sounds like both what you and Michael's describing is a lot of coaching presence, the competency on coaching presence, adaptability, flexibility, dancing in the moment to clients.
Yeah,
Thank you, Anu.
not being judgmental, going with the flow, and all of that, because we really need to offload our own baggage as we get into a conversation with a client.
Absolutely.
And what's coming up for me is this idea of, what style of coaching am I bringing to this particular client or this case? I mean, there's about 29, I just read about 29 different styles of coaching, transformative, developmental, gestalt, whatever. And so what is the most appropriate as a coach? So I'm constantly cycling through that too, to be of best service. So that's also a challenge. And sometimes I will signal that to the client and say, you know what, I need to just take a pause here and sense what it is, how I can be of best service to you, and recognize, is this a developmental concern? Is it a performance coaching moment? What is needed in this particular time and space? And that's not always obvious to do when you're trying to be fully present at the same time. Like I said, there's always that dynamic tension of clicking on and off during a coaching session.
Absolutely. Even master coaches know that. That is that little bit of clicking on and off and how to manage that. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, Coach, we can't hear you.
This is Marion.
Hi, Marion.
Hi, I just wanted to make one brief comment. If you're making it about the coachee, if you always make it about the coachee, you're probably safe.
Coaches, I'm noticing my time. I've got 2 more questions to raise. Oh, we had somebody talking? Am I disturbing somebody?
Could I just say a small thing?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, what I'm realizing is that the more I work with people, I realize that my body tells me things before my head does. And so occasionally I feel very full of feeling, or that I'm not breathing. And so I will probably say, do you know what I notice? I'm not breathing much at the moment. How are you? So rather use myself to stay with my real self and not pretend I'm not breathing, if you see what I mean.
Absolutely.
I'll leave you with that.
Cindy, I'd like to add on to that.
Go, Vijay.
Yeah, so I think the word, authentic as a coach, more than that, authentic as a person, as a human sits better with me. And the moment I can be authentic about myself as a human, I don't see a conflict at all. The moment I try to wear, forcibly a coach's hat, that's where the dilemma starts. So by being true to just myself, being myself, I think that's the first need I serve for the client.
Yeah, it relates to that point that Summer drew on, the words. Certain words just changes the meaning of things for people.
Hi, Cindy, Shyam here.
Hi, Shyam. Thank you, Vijay. Hi, Shyam.
Yes, sure.
I just like to add here a very simple concept which I believe in. We are human beings at the end of the day, evolving on a daily basis. So whatever you learn on a daily basis, you will implement some time or the other day. In the meanwhile, we need to accept ourselves that we are just in the journey, and similar as to the client. So on that aspect, even if you were to lose something in terms of a small aspect, when you anchor yourself, you are back to that state. And as Ram always has mentioned this part, that if something is important, it will evolve again. It will keep coming up by the client. So if you are authentic with the client will connect with you back, stating what they need. So you will be back there and you will still connect with the client. So anchoring is, according to me, is one of the simplest things, which I just teach many of them. If you can see 6 circles on your screen or around you, sitting there, it just comes back there and get into a bit of mindfulness there also. That's what.
Thank you, Shyam. So coaches, we've been on this journey in the last 45 minutes or so, where we spoke about our coaching style, or what is our coaching style or coaching presence. And we took a bit of a dive into a personal relationship or a relationship between coach and client, and how to be ourselves with our client, our authentic self. If you have another word you prefer using, go ahead with that word. So now I'd like to take you a bit outward. And in discovering all these lovely moments of yourself, what shows up as your style or your strength or your gifts, what people say stands out as having you as the coach. Let's take all of that outwardly. How do you use all this in your coaching business? Or how do you use it to stand out in your coaching business or develop your coaching business to the next level? Or take the next step in really, giving your coaching business a push. What do you want to change in your coaching business or how you come across as a professional coach, meaning the outside part, or if you want to call it the word that coaches don't like using, the marketing and the sales part. Coaches prefer to say coaching is all about building relationships. And that, of course, ripple effects into getting us more clients or building our businesses. And if that works for you, great. If there's something else you need to think about, like how to take your business to the next level, then go ahead and see what that is, what is emerging there for you, and spend some time reflecting on that. What do I need to show up? What do I need to bring out in me that was hidden all this while? And Johari's, we know the unknown parts of you that really shines out. What do you need to do to take your coaching business to the next level? And it's always better to talk about me and my client, and it always becomes a little bit more daunting to talk about me and my business development. But take that as your stretch point, okay? So I want to go to the last slide and then pick up again with one or two coaches I'd like to speak to. Am I stopped sharing? Did I stop?
I think it's the last slide, Cindy. You need to go back to a different slide.
No, there was one more, this one. The one. So here's some reflection questions, right? On how to take your coaching style or your coaching presence to the next level. So think about how you want to reshape your image, whether it's in your organization as an internal coach or an external coach. How do you want to reshape your image? And then, another question to think about is creating a powerful brand for yourself as you enter a new situation. I use the word situation and not a new type of coaching, because I don't know how else to use those words. So if you want to move from one level to another, or if you want to rebrand a different type of coaching, how do you do that? What do you want to do to create a more powerful brand for yourself and still remain relevant in a very competitive market? Are you thinking of shifting industries, life coaching to business coaching, career coaching? Are you thinking of becoming more an executive coach? And then, of course, what would make you stand out as this executive coach? Getting from one level to another, developing the power and capacity to overcome any experience of a glass ceiling. And coaches, I mean your own. Those thoughts you've been telling yourself, oh, I can't do that. What is the own glass ceiling, your own glass ceiling that's holding you back from developing and really living what is more authentic, your style? And of course, the last one, making an impact you know in your heart you're capable of, but unclear or confident on how to make it. And again, these are reflection questions that needs you to explore more or to sit down in a quiet space and come up with your own answers. that will make you more living in your, if you want to call it, authentic self, the real powerhouse that you feel inside you and afraid to bring out. So I'm going to stop screen share and chat, and let's look at how many times. I think I've reached the end of my time. Isn't that so, Ram?
Yes, unfortunately, because we have another webinar starting. So
Yes. So I'm going to say goodbye and not engage with any, sorry, coaches, but we have another webinar coming. It's been wonderful being with you, and I'm sorry about my abrupt saying goodbye.